Quanto valerá um Bitcoin após a aprovação do ETF da BlackRock? Anthony Pompliano foi à CNBC para explicar e, antes de falarmos sobre o que vem a seguir para o preço do Bitcoin, vamos deixar bem claro como o preço do Bitcoin chegou aqui.
I mean, look, to understand really where Bitcoin is right now, you got to go back to 2018, 2019. Bitcoin had been up to 20,000 in the bull market. It drew all the way down to $3,000. What happened there, and Stanley Druckenmiller said it was the thing that convinced him to go buy Bitcoin, is that none of the Bitcoiners really sold. About 80% of the people who owned it at 20,000 still owned it at 3,000.
Still 56% long-term right now, so there's no supply for it either.
It's highly illiquid. 76% hasn't been sold in the last year. 56% hasn't been sold in the last 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And really what we saw, what drove Bitcoin's price from that $3,000 bottom to $69,000, I mean, 23x in about 3 years, is that there was a supply and a demand shock. And we had printing of money, low interest rates, and we also got the halving. We look like we're headed right back to that. Right now, we do have high interest rates, and they're trying not to print money, but we have a $33.5 trillion debt. They're trying to fund 2 proxy wars. We have the southern border issue. We've got all sorts of inflation they're still trying to combat. And so what's likely to happen here is that they're going to have to return to loose monetary policy. When they do that, it is likely to coincide with the Bitcoin.
E, à medida que nos encontramos hoje, o Bitcoin sobe, enquanto a BlackRock se aproxima do lançamento de seu ETF de Bitcoin à vista, o iShares Bitcoin Trust, ou seja, o BlackRock Bitcoin Trust, foi listado na DTCC, Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, que realiza a liquidação de negociações na Nasdaq. O símbolo desse ETF será IBTC, como parte do processo de lançamento do ETF no mercado.
One of the things people have to remember is the best investors in the world act completely differently than the herd. And so right now, the herd is saying we're risk off. Every great investor I know is going risk on. They're buying these assets at suppressed prices because they know what's going to happen. We're going to return to loose monetary policy and prices are going to go back up.
Are we though? Higher for longer, higher for longer, higher for longer.
You eventually run into math, and ultimately you have a $33.5 trillion debt. You added $500 billion in the last month. We're sending hundreds of billions of dollars around for these proxy wars. If you're going to continue to raise the national debt, you're going to have to inflate it away. And so loose monetary policy is going to be the standard over the.
Portanto, compreendendo onde estamos hoje, qual é o valor provável de um Bitcoin agora? Melhor suposição. Tenha em mente que qualquer coisa é possível com criptomoedas. Nunca invista mais do que você está disposto a perder. No entanto, a longo prazo, até mesmo Alexis Ohanian, cofundador do Reddit, admite que o crescimento desse ativo é inegável.
Bitcoin has never felt really all that different from gold. If you explained to me that gold was a really important part of human culture, I'd understand it. As an Armenian, I know, I for whatever reason, just love gold. We have a cultural affinity for this shiny piece of metal, the shiny rock. And it's been built over years and years and years. And there are plenty of investors who won't touch it because they feel like it's not a great asset. But there's a whole heck of a lot of people who have a strong cultural affinity for it. And I think Bitcoin is in a similar camp. Maybe it's a different generation. Maybe it's more sort of technology-oriented folks. But at the end of the day, I'm investing in asteroid mining companies. And one thing I'm certain of is we're never going to find a bunch of new Bitcoin on an asteroid. There's a bunch of precious metals we will end up finding. But at the end of the day, it's a kind of asset that requires a sort of conviction in it as a store of value. And for a whole heck of a lot of people, there has been, at least as of yesterday, another flight to it. But, look, I invest with the long-term horizon. That's one of the nice things about this job is I don't have to worry about markets day to day or hour to hour. I make every investment with at least a 10-year time horizon.
Portanto, quando os especialistas estão especulando que um Bitcoin poderia valer imediatamente após a aprovação? Bem, honestamente, tudo depende da quantidade de dinheiro que flui para os ETFs. Se nenhum dinheiro entrar nesses ETFs, obviamente, nada mudará. No entanto, por outro lado, todas essas empresas agora terão suas equipes de vendas vendendo. Segundo a análise da Metricsport, o Bitcoin poderia subir para um valor entre 42 mil a 56 mil dólares se o ETF for aprovado. Essa previsão se baseia nos fluxos potenciais de até 24 bilhões de dólares. Por fim, Pompliano responde à pergunta de quanto valerá um Bitcoin.
Go back to this idea of, and we've talked about it on the broadcast a lot, this sort of buy the rumor, sell the news situation, which is if in fact this ETF exists, or there's a big announcement, is that a great day for Bitcoin, or is that baked into the price and you needed to have gotten there beforehand and actually goes down afterwards?
I think it's a great point. The halvings historically have been this like buy the rumor, sell the news events. The ETF probably is going to be something like that, where if you saw this fake news, I guess it was, where the ETF got approved, but it really wasn't approved. Right. Basically, price went up thousands of dollars in a few minutes, then drew right back down as soon as it was determined that it was fake. And so you probably will get some sort of short-term movement just out of the excitement. But I do think that this anticipation is obviously driving the price up. It was 25,000, now it's 34,000. You're just eating into what was potential returns on the approval. Right. And so the question isn't so much what happens on day one. Right. Galaxy Digital just came out with a research report. They think $14 billion will go into the ETF in the first year. If that happens, what does that do to the price? Their expectation is that's going to drive the price 75% higher. And so that's just their estimation around the ETF. If that's true, that's a pretty big price move for an asset that's already hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap.
E aí, o que achou desse vídeo? Se você gostou, deixa aquele like maroto, comente aí embaixo e se inscreva no canal. Lembre-se, essas informações foram baseadas em notícias e podem estar sujeitas a alterações ou interpretações. Não é uma dica e nem recomendação de investimento. Faça sua própria análise de investimento. Criptomoeda é um mercado muito arriscado.